Okay. These are monthly informal peer-to-peer discussions to talk about topics related to small business and entrepreneurship. You're always welcome to come off mute or type in the chat to ask a question, share something, engage in the conversation. We really want the tone to be conversational. We have featured speakers every month. So if you're ever interested in being a featured speaker and sharing an update about what you're working on, what you're thinking about, definitely let me know. We'd love to have you. Today we have Devon and Colleen, who are going to share a business course they've been working on from NC Live. So I will let them take it over in just a few minutes. But before I hand it over to them, does anybody else have an announcement or an update or anything you want to share? Hey, Stacy.
Well, I have a quick announcement, but if I want to see who else has something.
Go for it, Jim.
All right, sure thing. Well, I'll just keep this short. So my name's Jim Takeshita. I'm also in ALA's Public Policy and Advocacy Office, and I just wanted to send a quick reminder to everybody that National Small Business Week is coming up in the next few weeks. It starts April 29th. And I've asked around a lot in our community Slack chat. If you're not already a part of that, I recommend being a part of it. But I've asked around for people who are interested in shooting short videos, but I also wanted to remind everybody here that if you just want to make a post, or if you just want to interact with some other libraries' posts, you are welcome to do so. We, really are encouraging people to get out and acknowledge the week in whatever way they can. So I'm also, if you're interested in hearing more about the campaign, I'm going to be staying on after this meeting for a few minutes. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about it, let me know.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, so National Small Business Week coming up. It's National Library Week this week. Happy National Library Week. And yeah, Jim is happy to support anyone thinking about putting together some social media for our campaign. So definitely check in about that if you're thinking about that. I have a couple of announcements as well. First of all, Jim mentioned our Slack page. Please do join us there if you have not already. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. We have a number of other resources as well, including a YouTube page with all of our past monthly meetings. So if you've missed one and you're interested in a particular topic, we have our YouTube channel here. Definitely check that out if you're wanting to get caught up with what we've been talking about. And like I said, if you're ever interested in being a featured speaker, let me know. I'd love to hear what you're working on. This is a great group to get feedback from, to bounce ideas with. So it's always a lot of fun to hear what people are working on and get inspired by what people are doing in different places. You probably saw on Slack, we had, or we're doing the ELC pitch competition again this spring. That's coming up in May. And the deadline to submit a pitch is on this Friday. They extended the deadline in order to give people more time. We realized last week was PLA and a lot of people were traveling. So there's an opportunity to win funding to get your program off the ground. There's $7,000 up for grabs in total. I definitely encourage anyone in this group to apply and do a pitch. It's one, a lot of fun. It's a great group of people. You get good feedback. But two, you could win money. So that's always good. So definitely encourage anyone to do that if you are thinking about it. And then speaking of our resources, the Libraries Build Business Communications Toolkit. Many of you have heard us talk about that. Many of you probably participated in the initial training that we did probably this time last year. it's a great resource. I hope people are using it. It's a great way to, there's just ready-made talking points for various audiences, including the small business and entrepreneurs, potential partners, elected leaders, and library staff. So I definitely encourage you to use that. Audrey Barbakoff and I just did a presentation about it at PLA, and to get kind of another opportunity to tell people how to teach people how to use the tools and inspire people to think about that outreach piece in their business communities. And we also did a recording of that same presentation for Lib's work earlier this week. And so I wanted to share that here. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, just for anyone that maybe wasn't a part of this group last April when we did the rollout, or if you just want a refresher on the communications toolkit, check out our most recent presentation, and definitely let me know if you have any questions. We would love to help you use that. I think that's all my announcements. Does anybody else have announcements or updates, things they want to share about what they're working on? I just want to say hi.
I could say hi real quick. Stacy with Spokane County Library District in Washington State. I know Jim was talking about National Small Business Week. We're kind of doing a National Small Business Month thing here. And we're kicking it off on Monday with an opportunity for community members to fill out a form and tell us which of their local businesses is their favorite and why. And really, we're kind of following SBA's example of this being more a celebration of businesses and like awards and things. So we're going to draw prize winners out of the submissions that we get, but then we're also going to share the feedback with the businesses. And we're hoping on our form, we've got a couple of check boxes where people can choose to have their testimonials filmed if they so desire. So we're hoping that we can get some of that storytelling for our library, but then also share those recordings with the business, and the business can use it on their social media as well. So some of you might remember we've done Small Business Saturday for a number of years, not as impactful the last couple of years. So we did not do it last November. Not a single person asked us why we were not doing it. So it was 100% the right choice to sunset that, but we'll see if we get better engagement in the spring with this event. So I'll keep you posted.
Cool, Stacey. Yeah, that's great. Definitely keep us posted on National Small Business Month. Anybody else have anything they want to share, an update, an announcement?
Hi, everyone. Kelly Forkenbrock with North Liberty Library in North Liberty, Iowa. A couple things. Well, they're kind of related to the same thing. So 1 Million Cups, I think some people may be familiar with that organization. So we have a branch here in Iowa City. I've been trying to work to get 1 Million Cups presence here in North Liberty. So for reference, Iowa City is where University of Iowa is located. And then we have North Liberty, which is a smaller rural town about 15 minutes outside the University of Iowa's campus. So we have our own enclave, our own neighborhood, and our own community of business owners and local entrepreneurs. So the first step for doing that is we're going to hold our own 1 Million Cups event this coming Wednesday, the 17th. We're really excited about it because this will just give us another opportunity to show how your small and rural library can be of help for your business needs. And then I connected actually with our local SBDC rep. He works out of a university building as well, not too far from here. And we'll possibly, we're going to meet sometime in the next couple of weeks to discuss a possible collaboration for programming there. So lots going on with that, and we're really excited about our first 1 Million Cups event. I'm hoping we can continue to bring a spotlight to North Liberty businesses and organizations with 1 Million Cups. So next week's event is only the beginning.
That's awesome, Kelly. Good work. Well, keep us updated. You know, 1 Million Cups is a great program and partner. Anybody else?
Oh, well, I have a little promotion going on this week. I decided to use local businesses to promote National Library Week. So I called it Sticker Search. And I said, well, if you will volunteer to be a library partner and give out free stickers to customers who show their library cards at your business, then we will promote you. And I got 36 downtown businesses to sign up. So yeah, so it's worked out okay.
Very cool. Anything else from anybody? It's great to see you all here. Thanks for being here. And it looks like it's time to turn it over to our featured speakers. So I'm going to pass it over to Devon and Colleen. Please take it away.
Well, thanks, Megan. I'll share my screen now. And then I will drop the link to the slides in the chat in case you'd like to follow along. Oh. Actually, I've lost the link, but I'll make sure to send it to Megan as well. So this is crafting a course for business outreach and research in North Carolina. And I am the instruction librarian for NC Live. I've been running our training program for about 5 years now. And I have Colleen Tavolacci, who is the field experience student working with me on this project this semester. So I'll have her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Tavolacci, and as Devon said, I was lucky enough to be chosen to be her intern for this endeavor at NC Live. And I've also been an intern with public libraries here in North Carolina in Wake County Library. So I'm also a temp at the moment in a public library, and I am a graduate student at UNCG, and I'll be graduating in a couple of weeks, and really excited to get started on my new career.
Just to share a little bit more about. Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Devon.
No, you go ahead.
All right, so just to share again, as Devon was saying about the field experience itself, it was really a great opportunity to see behind the scenes with a library that I wasn't familiar with academic libraries, and some resources and materials that were definitely not in my wheelhouse, with exploring the business references and resources through NC Live and the other books and articles, and like the LBB playbook that we ran across. That was all really informative and helpful. And this also provided me an opportunity to collaborate and communicate with the business librarians such as yourself and different groups like Blink, and participate in this community discussion, for example. So that was really informative and helpful. The other thing that this field experience helped me to learn about and review as we were building the course was all the case studies that many of you also are going to share or have been sharing, your successes and potential partnerships. Also, the field experience gave me a little bit of background with just how to produce such a course as an instruction librarian. And then next week, as we wrap up, we'll be looking at marketing ideas. I attended an NC Live webinar just today on social media marketing. Again, these are all fabulous things that as a public librarian, I had no idea about, and the field experience really helped me understand how to put these pieces together and be a part of it.
Colleen was also a veteran teacher in Wake County Public Schools, and her perspective as an instructor helped a lot with creating learning objectives and making sure that we were creating assessments and activities that were practical. Just want to share a little bit about NC Live since we're a consortium and not a library. We're kind of like the library's library, but we're a membership cooperative. We're hosted at NC State Libraries and Raleigh. We are 27 years old, and we serve 4 different communities. So we serve all public libraries in North Carolina, community colleges, the UNC system, and private universities and colleges. So it's over 200 and it's a public-private partnership because we work with the private universities in North Carolina. And what we do is we provide resources for all of our member libraries. So they're able to get the same content, software, and services. We have in our A to Z list of resources a lot of business databases. And when I started working at NC Live, I was immediately brought into contact with Blink, which is the business section of NCLA. They're an incredibly active section, and they kind of showed me the ropes of business research and reference. It was something I wasn't super familiar with starting off. But as I've gotten to get more familiar with it and teach how to use these resources, I found that public libraries have been really increasingly interested. And because we're providing these really expensive business resources, it's been on my mind for a long time on how we can create something that's a little bit more permanent and self-paced for business research. This is our mission. So we help member libraries to better support education, enhance economic development, and improve the quality of life of all North Carolinians. It's a really broad mission. And we don't always think about that middle part of enhancing economic development. And so with this course, we really wanted to tie into that piece of our mission and remind people that that is one of our priorities as an organization in working with libraries. So as the instruction librarian, I run our training program, which involves webinars, in-person workshops. I travel to lots of public libraries around the state to do staff trainings on our resources, and then I create self-paced materials using our learning management system, Moodle, as well as videos on our YouTube channel. And so, as I mentioned, I had been kind of kicking around this idea for a while, and it really started to kind of come to fruition last year. So this started with Buncombe County Public Libraries coming to me in the beginning of 2023 to say, hey, our local business nonprofit, Mountain BizWorks, is interested in learning more about data axle reference solutions, which is an NC Live resource. And the librarians there said, can you give us a one-on-one consultation to show us how to use the tool so that we can then teach it to Mountain BizWorks? And so I did that. And then I found, I don't know how, through word of mouth, that multiple different libraries started to reach out to me and say that they wanted to learn more about Data Axle and other business databases because they were working with their Chamber of Commerce or their Small Business Development Center. And I think after like the fourth or fifth library, I realized there is a need for something self-paced that I can share with our member libraries that they can then use and then come to me with questions. And so that's where in the fall, I started to put the word out about the field experience, and I met with Collen, and it's been really great working with her on creating this. Here are our primary goals for the course. So we really want to make sure people gain familiarity with our resources because we spend so much of the NC Live budget on providing these resources for the entire state. And business databases can feel, and business research, as you all know, can kind of feel esoteric sometimes. And so we wanted to make sure that a library assistant that says, hey, I only do reader's advisory, but I kind of want to try and build this skill set, or I'm working with my local SCORE chapter, they can take this course and then feel a little bit more confident in using our resources. And that goes hand in hand with building those skills with business and market research, learning how to get the most out of those tools to actually answer patron questions. And we also wanted to make sure that people kind of got a bird's eye view understanding of what their local business ecosystem is, how to get involved, and ways to kind of start small, just by kind of like being a good host, showing up to meetings with potential partners, and really letting things take off from there.
So one of the things that really helped us and helped me in particular kind of wrap my head around these concepts of of how businesses and public libraries can partner are, of course, through some of these case studies, many of which are highlighted in the LBB playbook. But first, I think we looked at some just state examples through the Durham Public Library that has a business center, Greensboro and Charlotte-Mecklenburg Public Library. And then as Devon reached out to some of the fabulous folks like in Spokane and I think Richland, South Carolina, and other places that had some varied examples and different levels of success and different scales of delivery models. These case studies really can help other public libraries see that it is kind of daunting or intimidating at first, but with their detailed information and some of their tips, that case study sort of view alone in the course can just show that even though this isn't something that is in your wheelhouse or that your library system hasn't done before, there's so many different ways to roll it out and to deliver the different ways that businesses can benefit from the resources, especially in our state with NC Live. I feel like these different aspects can inspire or be good ideas. So the case studies were really helpful in helping see what is already out there and what's established locally, nationally, and just some potential that the libraries that take this course can look into. Then we used a couple of sample scenarios. So the middle units actually get further into teaching or exposing how to apply things from data Axle solutions to Social Explorer maps. The first scenario actually, Devon mentioned, came from or was inspired from an actual case with the Durham Public Libraries. And this was a dog grooming business. Is that right, Devon? I have that one mixed up.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Jana Bradley from Durham Public Library shared this one with us.
So that scenario was a great example about a really relevant kind of business in a scenario that showed how to use Data Axle to look at things like target markets and just do some basic business research, which is always helpful. And then the second scenario was more of a commercial painting business. So this was inspired by just looking at a local or a relevant area that's really up and coming with businesses like that, or this could be a potential business in that ecosystem in Chatham County, North Carolina. And both of these examples in the course have a way of allowing the user to sort of interact as if you were that person. Again, just to kind of drill down into the specific skill set or exposure that a patron might need or use of some of the NC Live databases.
So we are going to share a sneak peek of the course. And so it's not fully done, but just to give you an idea, we start off at the beginning with goals, duration, format. We kind of estimated the duration based on videos and then time spent answering questions. Last year, I created an orientation course to help new hires at member libraries. And so based on the content, I kind of figured this was going to be roughly the same time frame as how long it takes to take the orientation course. We also worked with our training committee to get feedback, and some of our members, excuse me, of our training committee at NC Live are business librarians, and they suggested having a definition of what is business research to help people orient themselves in the course. We start off by covering the local business ecosystem, and we have a short video for that. And with all of our content, we were making sure that it was captioned and accessible for course takers. And then we have slideshow and examples of how to set a goal with your local business community. So we shared some relevant resources, as well as, how do you even start with this? It can be as simple as attending a meeting or inviting that group like Mountain BizWorks to be a good host, which you all know. And really just kind of making sure for those unfamiliar that there is a whole community and set of resources that are available to them. And then we did include some materials from the LBB Communications Toolkit because we really want to put that out there and let our libraries know that they can take advantage of it. We think it's such a multifaceted tool. And then letting people know that it's not just your local resources like your Chamber of Commerce, but it's also lenders, trade associations. We have a lot of statewide organizations in North Carolina for business and economic development. And then those national ones that have local chapters like SCORE or SBA. We also have a unique situation where we have our small business development centers at all of our community colleges in North Carolina, but there are also the small business and technology development centers that are at all of the UNC system schools, which can be kind of confusing for a library staff member trying to figure out what's available. And then through the course, course takers can go into Unit 2, where we have videos on some of our main business resources. So ProQuest ABI Inform collection, letting people know that there are industry reports from Dun & Bradstreet that are really helpful for getting a snapshot of an industry, and those are timely. They're updated on a quarterly basis, covering data axle reference solutions, as we mentioned, with an infographic and some practice searches. And one of the things that we found based on feedback from the orientation course that I published last year is it's really hard for people to put up 2 windows of searching in the databases and then taking the course. And so we tried to integrate as much material from our resources in the actual course, so people didn't have to navigate between 2 windows. We also have Social Explorer, which is a mapping demographic tool, but it also has these easy market profiles, which can be used for business research and sizing target markets. And so we wanted to make sure that's a new resource that we added for our member libraries to highlight that. And really kind of trying to cover things like industry codes, why would we use them, how you can use them to search for businesses in Data Axle, which can feel intimidating, but we really tried to make it approachable. And then we have this activity of reviewing a sample small business plan with some suggestions about how you can integrate NC Live resources. And then we kind of cover market research with the pet grooming business example, taking a geographic area like Boone. Part of the reason I chose Boone, which is in Western North Carolina, where App State is a lot of the libraries that reached out about doing consultations on data axle reference solutions are from Western North Carolina. And some of them are really small libraries that are wanting to use this tool. So one thing that I want to make sure to convey in the course is no matter if you're in an urban area or a rural library, you can use these resources to analyze your community, find competitors, and also find potential customers. And we really make sure to walk through the complexity of these resources as much as possible. So this is an example of a screenshot of pet grooming businesses in Boone and showing how you can analyze this to look up the business's profiles and see their sales volume, their employee size, and really get an idea of what's possible. And then in the 4th and final unit, we use the commercial painting business example to show how to visualize target markets. So as I mentioned, Social Explorer, it can be a really intimidating or possibly kind of overwhelming tool for patrons and library staff. But once you kind of get into the tool and play around with it, it's quite user-friendly. It just kind of requires examples like these to get used to it. But this is showing recent movers in Chatham County, as well as new homes and homes for sale. And a lot of these kind of census tracts are in the northern part of the county. So that's something that in this sample scenario could tip off Mateo in our scenario to start building contacts in those areas and seeing what contractors or companies he could build relationships with. And then at the end, we kind of put it all together and show how you can create those visualizations, the custom maps, and actually put them into a sample stakeholder presentation. And so really trying to make it as practical as possible, and thinking that like this is a great demographic tool that often universities use, but also public libraries can take advantage of. And at the end of the course, we have a final assessment, and we also make sure to have a full list of resources. So recommended books, such as Celia Ross's Making Sense of Business reference was a really great tool for us throughout the semester. Making sure to highlight the library's Build Business program and let people know how they can get involved in these community discussions and in the Slack channel, as well as some North Carolina resources, such as Blink, as we mentioned, the Council for Economic Development, the North Carolina Military Business Center, Women's Business Center of North Carolina, all these groups that libraries could potentially reach out to or share out the relevant resources with prospective or current small business owners. So it's been a really fun journey with Colleen to gather case studies, which we'll add to the course in the first unit, and then kind of create something that people can use as a primer on this skill set, but also as a refresher if needed. And then I'll hop back into my slides and just share a couple more things. So yeah, as I mentioned, highlighting the North Carolina resources, as well as the national ones. And then in terms of next steps, we are planning to publish the course on May 29th. And then over the summer, promote the course to our member libraries and their relevant partners. I just had a committee member yesterday say that their Small Business Development Center at their community college is chomping at the bit to access the course and use it and share it with attendees and patrons of the Small Business Center. So that's kind of where we're going with things. And I'd love to kind of turn it over to you all and see if there's any questions you all have for us or suggestions about what to include in the course. We are also still gathering case studies. So if you have a cool program or partnership or service at your library, or you just want to share some tips and advice for course takers, we welcome that. And I would be happy to kind of gather those with you and reach out.
Thanks so much, Devon and Colleen. Yeah, everyone, we have time for some conversation now and reactions to the course or as Devon said, we just got a sneak peek, so it's not published yet. So if there's suggestions too, I think, or any feedback, I think they're welcoming that as well.
Where were you 20 years ago when I was starting out? That's all I want to know.
I learned
answer that.
so much. I learned so much from some veteran public library staff in North Carolina who do business reference. Shout out to Mimi Curley from Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. I feel like she's taught me so much. And yeah, I hope that like future library staff are able to take advantage of it as well as current ones. But yeah, thanks, Rosalind. I'll also share the link to the slides so that you all can access them later, as well as my contact information.
Oh, I had one question, and maybe you addressed this during the presentation and I just missed it. So all the databases that you emphasize in the course do all the libraries have access to those through NC Live or only some of them?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, all of them are available. We didn't want to include things that just academic libraries have.
Yeah.
Devon, can you say again? I think I missed it at the beginning. Like the inspiration for creating this course was that to just kind of give generalists like confidence in doing business, or is this an actual like certification where people that do the course can be like get a specialization in business service with the NC State program?
It's more of the former than the latter because we work closely with our state library and NCLA, our statewide library association, and we don't really have a system of continuing education credits. And for us, we provide a certificate of completion for our Moodle courses so that people can use them on their annual reviews and as documentation. But we found that in kind of providing just the certificate and not anything that's a little bit more involved, we're able to get more course takers. And I think too, like we wanted to avoid just like over engineering it. I think we could add badges eventually, but we wanted something simple that even non-librarians could take advantage of.
Thank you. I know we've talked about in this group kind of the difference between people that got their start as generalists and sort of fell into doing business services versus people that wanted to do business services, knew they would. And I think even just that structure of having a course and kind of like knowing you've completed some sort of like process of like gives people just that confidence. You know, a lot of people in this group are like, oh, I just started because they told me to, you know. So really helpful.
I will say, having seen the backwards design and being on the inside, but also having that perspective, I told Devon I'm kind of making a new role for myself as an unofficial ambassador of NC Live. Because I can't understand why any public library wouldn't be interested, especially in the state, you know, where we have the access to the resources. But I think the course will show that, yes, it is a little overwhelming or intimidating if it's not in your wheelhouse, but just knowing that you're an information specialist, you're a librarian, so that's part of your job and the library's mission, just knowing about how to help patrons find the resources is a start. And I was going to say too, with Wake County in particular, they started or they have redone or reimagined how they have professional librarians in the system now, assessing, self-assessing and looking at goals and growth and change. So this is something that I think would be a great way to show that as you're working in the system, how you can, look at different ways of outreach and grow your role as a public librarian. And you don't have to be a business librarian per se, or have those credentials or be formally trained to introduce this idea or concept.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I loved that quote from Mark about
Yeah.
you're allowed to say, I don't know. Right.
Colleen was super helpful too, because at the same time she was working with me on this project, she was also at Cary Public Library. And I feel like every week Colleen came back with like, oh, this is something that was business related that I heard on the desk, or there's this group that is meeting nearby at another branch library. I'm going to go to that event and see. So I think hopefully, with this course, I wanted to make sure that Colleen got a lot out of it so that she could then be able to talk about it in interviews and have it as part of her portfolio, but also for her to gain the confidence in using these resources as a generalist public librarian working in adult services. So it's been nice to get that kind of constant perspective of what she was seeing at the library.
I think another thing that came up when we were getting started at Libraries Built Business is like businesses, you can't do things at the library that cost money or that make money. And so where was the line there? I don't know if that's come up in your conversations with creating the course, or like if you address that specifically, or how you think about that when you talk to people about that.
Yeah. I think the main one that came up was with SCORE, which, while they're a great partner, in talking with other LBB libraries in the cohort, they said, it's best if SCORE can be in the library to do the programming, because then they're typically not charging people within the library. But if they're doing workshops outside the library, they usually have some sort of registration fee with their offerings. And so finding that balance, or potentially having the asterisks of like, this partner's great, but there are ways to kind of work with organizations that do charge, and kind of preventing them from charging if they're being hosted by the library. So that was something that we've added as a caveat with SCORE. And then another thing that's come up that's not necessarily charging people, but people have questions about data axle reference solutions and how they get their information. And so that's something that we explain in the course, because it can be exciting for one course taker and then really overwhelming, or what I see is people are like, I can't believe they have all that data when they learn about data axle. And so we share that here's how they get their data. It's not always the most accurate, but it can be useful.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
I would just say, Devon, we ran into that with SCORE pre-pandemic and got around it by using our programming budget to pay SCORE, an honorarium, and then they like kind of sold it as a lunch and learn. They could do an hour workshop as opposed to the 3 or 4 hours or longer sessions they were doing in their office. But also the pandemic kind of blew all that up, because I think all of the SCORE chapters in Washington State, I think there were 3, pretty much almost all of their workshops are free now, and almost all of them are available online. So they kind of made some changes to adapt to that. And I don't know, post-pandemic, if they'll slowly start, like if the charges will creep in again. But I know that they're not a money-making, they're not in it for the money. They're just trying to recoup like the cost of doing business kind of thing. But yeah, that is a struggle for sure.
Yeah, that's a great tack to take.
If you have the programming budget, we were fortunate enough
Yeah.
that we could. So I recognize not everybody does.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Well, Colleen and Devon, thank you so much for sharing this. And definitely thank you for including the work from Libraries Build Business in your course. I'm really excited for, people that take your course to see that and hopefully continue to kind of collaborate across the whole field, grow everybody in this area. So really excited to see this work. Appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Any final thoughts or comments from either of you, or you shared your next steps, I guess. So the course is coming next month.
Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me. I dropped my email in the chat if you have advice or questions or tips that you want to share. And then I think one thing that we found was when we were reading through the playbook and the communications toolkit, and then we requested the actual book itself, the LBB book, that it just ended up being so foundational to everything else that came after in planning the course. And we want to make sure that we're directing people to it because it just getting that word of mouth out, I think is really important. And knowing that there are both national and statewide and local people that you can reach out to is great. I think once I started meeting with folks at Richland Public Library and then Rachel at Laramie County Library, it just made like the whole thing feel smaller and more approachable. So it's been really nice to get to talk to people outside of North Carolina too.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Devon said and say that perspective is really valuable and helpful, and that resource could be invaluable in addition to the course because it can fill in some of those gaps, like with just the print and go talking points and the communications toolkit. So the other little pieces that the course maybe doesn't address directly, they've got a wealth of resources as well, just for the initial, even RA, business entrepreneur, business person conversation, the initial way to broach the topic. So it was just really overall a really great exposure to different ideas and models that I'm super excited to take to public libraries any way that I can do that.
Yeah, well, thank you both. I totally agree. There's so many great people working in this space, and it definitely makes, I think the description of making it smaller is right. Like you can go to a conference and you can connect with like this group and you hear what people are doing across the country and feel like you're among friends. So that's really, really nice. If there's nothing else, we definitely don't have to. We can give people some time back today. I dropped the exit ticket in the chat. It's just a 3-question feedback on the topic today, any future topics or feedback from me that you want me to know. As I mentioned, we're always looking for other people to speak. So definitely you can put that on there as long as you identify yourself because it's otherwise anonymous. And I will keep the line open if anyone wants to hang back and chat. But otherwise, it was great to see people today. Thanks for being here and hope to see you next month. And thanks again to our speakers, to Devon and Colleen.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.